Have you ever stopped to wonder what your eyes reveal about the depths of your soul? Maybe it's something you've always accepted as just a genetic detail, nothing more than biology. But to Carl Jung, nothing about your body is truly random. He believed that even your eye color could hold profound meaning, intimate revelations about your soul's essence, your deepest nature, and even the archetypal forces that flow through your very being. Your eyes, the way they capture light, the mystery of their hue. They're more than physical features. They may serve as sacred windows into your soul's blueprint. Jung's theories on archetypes and the collective unconscious open a profound possibility that the color of your eyes is connected to your soul's signature, a whispered truth about who you are at the deepest level and what your soul came here to express. In this video, we'll explore how each eye color, blue, green, hazel, brown, may carry its own soul essence, a unique frequency of spirit, emotion, and divine purpose. But before we dive in, if you resonate with the search for soul-deep understanding, subscribe to our channel. This space is for those who seek more than surface-level answers, for those who want to understand their soul's true language. So look into your own eyes for a moment, because what you're about to discover might not only reveal who you truly are, but what your soul has been trying to communicate all along. We live in a world that teaches us to look outward before we look inward. From the time we're young, we're trained to focus on appearances, how things look, how people behave, how to fit in. But rarely do we stop to ask, what soul is looking through these eyes? What is the essence behind our gaze? And perhaps more mysteriously, what does that gaze reveal about our soul's deepest nature? Carl Jung often reminded us that the surface is never just surface. The outer world, and even the body we inhabit, is shaped in deep and sometimes invisible ways by what he called the unconscious. And within that unconscious lies a hidden architecture of images, stories, and instincts, what he famously named archetypes. These archetypes are not just ideas. They're soul blueprints, primordial energies that influence how we love, how we fear, how we grow, and how we express our deepest truth. They show up in dreams, in myths, in recurring life patterns. But Jung also believed they could be expressed through the body itself, especially in subtle features like posture, expressions, and yes, even the eyes. If the body is a kind of canvas for the soul to express itself, then the eyes are one of its most profound masterpieces. The eyes as archetypal symbol. Why do we instinctively say, the eyes are the windows to the soul? Why can a single look make us feel exposed or deeply seen without a word? And why do we sense so much in someone's gaze, even before we know their story? Jung would say, because we're recognizing something ancient, something beneath the persona, something that doesn't belong to one lifetime, but to the eternal patterns of human experience. In Jungian psychology, the symbol is the most powerful language of the soul. It's not literal, but it's never meaningless. A symbol carries layers. It can't be fully explained. It has to be felt, sensed, lived. And the eyes are one of the most charged symbols across every culture on Earth. In mythology, the eyes are often linked to truth, power, mystery, divine sight, soul recognition. The all-seeing eye, the evil eye, the third eye, the eye of Horus. In every tradition, eyes are portals between souls, between worlds, between the conscious and the eternal. So what if your specific eyes, their color, intensity, depth, carry not just biological information, but sacred clues about your soul's architecture? This isn't about fortune-telling. It's not about saying, all people with green eyes have this soul, and all people with brown eyes have that soul. Instead, it's about asking a deeper question. What soul essence might be expressed through the symbolic language of your eyes? Carl Jung believed in the fundamental unity of body and soul. He saw the body not as a container, but as a living expression of the soul's landscape. In his view, the way we move, speak, breathe, and even experience illness is often shaped by our soul's deepest patterns. It's why Jung studied dreams, synchronicities, physical symptoms, even astrology, not to define people, but to explore how symbolic systems reflect soul dynamics. He would likely argue that no aspect of your appearance is purely accidental, especially when it resonates across generations, families, or spiritual lineages. So when we ask, why do I have these eyes? We're really asking, what is my soul here to witness? And what do my eyes reveal about the sacred essence I carry within? In this light, the color of your eyes becomes a revelation of what soul energy might be flowing through you. Not because someone assigned it to you, but because your soul may have chosen it as part of your spiritual expression. The symbolic meaning of color. Before we ever look at eye color as a category, we need to understand that color itself speaks to the soul. Across cultures, colors evoke deep soul resonances. Blue, clarity, transcendence, depth, mystical longing, spiritual seeking. Brown, earth wisdom, soul stability, nurturing essence, grounded love. Green, soul transformation, growth, vitality, alchemical change. Gray, soul neutrality, deep contemplation, balanced wisdom, inner knowing. Hazel, soul complexity, multifaceted essence, divine paradox. Black or very dark eyes, soul depth, profound mystery, ancient wisdom, spiritual intensity. These aren't definitions. They're soul frequencies. Each color resonates with certain archetypal soul energies, just like elements do, or seasons, or sacred symbols. So if your eye color aligns with a certain symbolic tone, it may mean that your soul is expressing that energetic signature, not as a limitation, but as a starting point, a symbolic gateway through which to better understand your soul's patterns. Jung's work constantly emphasized this. We are not one-dimensional souls. We are complex, multifaceted beings, but we each have a few dominant themes, archetypal soul patterns that shape our essence, our challenges, our gifts. And those themes often emerge in how we express ourselves, how others respond to our energy, and yes, even how our soul chooses to look out at the world. So let's return to the mirror. Next time you look into your eyes, don't ask just, do they look tired today? Ask, what soul essence is trying to express itself through them? Do they feel piercing, soft, seeking, protective? Do they feel like they're guarding something sacred or revealing something profound? That sensation, that inner soul quality may be more important than the color itself, because even within blue eyes there are endless soul variations. Even within brown eyes, some carry ancient wisdom, others hold nurturing love. Your experience of your own soul's gaze, how it feels from within, is what matters most. This is how Jung would have approached it. He didn't believe in soul stereotypes. He believed in soul symbols, and in the unique dance between your conscious life and the archetypal soul forces flowing beneath it. In the next part of this soul journey, we'll begin to explore how different eye colors may reveal archetypal soul essences, not as fixed destinies, but as sacred reflections of the inner soul stories you may be living, sometimes without even realizing it. What does it mean to carry the soul of the seeker? What's hidden in the soul essence of the alchemist? How does the guardian soul perceive the world? What makes some souls feel magnetic through their gaze, and others feel mysteriously invisible? These are the soul questions we'll begin to unravel, not to limit you, but to reveal the sacred patterns within your soul's expression. Because in the end, your eyes aren't just how your soul looks out into the world. They're also how the world begins to recognize the sacred essence you carry. Now that we've opened the door to the symbolic world of soul expression through the eyes, it's time to begin the sacred descent. Into the soul, meaning each eye color may carry, not just physically, but spiritually, energetically, and archetypally. These are not soul labels. You are not being told what your soul is. Instead, you're being invited to recognize, to see something your soul may have been whispering to you but you've never quite understood. Let's begin this soul revelation. Blue eyes, the seeker soul, the mystic essence, the inward divine gaze. There is something otherworldly about blue eyes. Whether piercing like crystalline ice or soft like infinite sky, they hold a kind of sacred distance, a divine space, an eternal question. They seem to look through the material world rather than directly at it, like a soul scanning for something just beyond the veil of ordinary reality. Symbolically, blue eyes resonate with the archetypal soul of the seeker. Jung described this soul pattern as the part of us that yearns for the invisible, that refuses to be satisfied with surface truths. The seeker soul walks between worlds, one foot in earthly reality, the other in mystical realms. Souls expressing through blue eyes may carry within them an innate orientation toward divine introspection, spiritual longing, and transcendent meaning. From a young age, they might have asked soul questions others avoided. Why am I here? What is the deeper truth? Why does everything feel so spiritually heavy sometimes? This soul longing can make them emotionally profound, even if externally they appear cool or serene. Many blue-eyed souls possess a kind of spiritual radar, an ability to detect subtle changes in energy, divine timing, or soul truth in others. But rather than reacting quickly, they often retreat inward to commune with their deeper knowing. They live not on the surface, but in the soul underlayers of thought, feeling, divine perception. Jung might say this correlates with a dominance of the intuitive soul function, a being who perceives meaning in symbols, sacred silence, solitude, and mystical experiences. But every soul archetype has its shadow. The seeker soul can become lost in eternal searching, never feeling spiritually satisfied, always looking for the next revelation. They may struggle to feel present because their soul is so often in past lives, future possibilities, or some idealized spiritual realm. They may also struggle with soul loneliness, feeling like others don't see their true essence, or worse, don't want to witness their depth. Their spiritual intensity can become a burden when the world around them demands surface conversations and shallow goals. But when the blue-eyed soul learns to trust their inner divine wisdom without needing external spiritual validation, they become luminous. They stop looking for a spiritual home and begin creating sacred space wherever they are. Their gaze no longer pleads to be spiritually understood. It becomes an invitation for others to go deeper into their own souls too. Blue eyes are not just about light. They are about divine clarity. And when this clarity is turned inward, the seeker soul becomes the mystic, a being who doesn't just search for meaning but embodies sacred truth. By the way, if you're curious to go even deeper and integrate your shadows and light, check out the SIM Method ebook. It's a concise guide that can help you unlock your inner power in just 5 minutes a day. The link is in the first pinned comment below. Brown eyes, the guardian soul, the rooted essence, the earth wisdom bearer. Brown eyes are often overlooked in their spiritual significance. Because they are common in many parts of the world, they're rarely seen as mystical. But from a soul perspective, brown eyes are among the most powerful because they embody the sacred energy of earth wisdom itself. In Jungian terms, they resonate with the archetypal soul of the guardian or sacred protector. This is the energy of the stable, grounded soul force, the one who stays when others flee, the one who listens with their soul before they speak, the one who builds, protects, and nurtures, quietly, steadily, with unwavering soul loyalty. Souls expressing through brown eyes often radiate sacred presence. There's something unshakable in their essence, something others can lean into with complete trust. They are often the emotional and spiritual anchor in their families or soul circles, even when they don't consciously choose this role. Others naturally come to them for comfort, for soul guidance, for healing, and they give without asking much in return. This reflects a deeply ingrained divine mother-father archetype, regardless of gender, not in the literal sense of parenting, but in the sole function of holding sacred space. Brown-eyed souls may absorb the emotional and spiritual needs of those around them almost unconsciously, learning early on how to soothe, support, and provide soul sanctuary. But the guardian soul carries a sacred burden. Their steadiness often comes at a spiritual cost. They may suppress their own soul needs to maintain harmony. They may become spiritually invisible in their own stories, so used to giving that they forget how to receive divine nourishment. They may stay in relationships or situations long past their soul's calling, simply because they feel spiritually responsible. Jung warned about this. The danger of merging too completely with a soul role, even a sacred one. For brown-eyed souls, the journey is to reclaim their inner divine fire, to realize that being spiritually strong doesn't mean being silent, that soul loyalty should not mean self-abandonment, that they can still be a source of grounding without losing their own sacred voice. When they do this, they become more than protectors. They become soul healers, not because they absorb others' pain, but because they transform it into divine wisdom. Brown eyes do not demand attention. They don't need to proclaim their power. Their soul strength is not in their flash. It's in their sacred depth. They are not light like fire. They are deep like fertile earth. And from that soul-rich soil, entire spiritual forests grow. Green eyes, the alchemist soul, the bridge between sacred worlds. Green eyes are rare, and their souls feel that divine rarity. There's something magnetically mystical, almost hypnotically sacred about them. People often describe green eyes as mysterious, spiritually intense, or wildly alive. But that mystery is not random. It reflects a unique soul alchemy. Symbolically, green is the color of soul transformation, divine balance, and sacred metamorphosis. It lives between blue, cool, mystical, introspective, and yellow, warm, fiery, assertive. So too do green-eyed souls often live between spiritual worlds. In Jungian language, green eyes resonate with the archetypal soul of the alchemist, the one who transforms pain into power, shadow into light, instinct into divine insight. These are not souls who live life passively. They feel everything with spiritual intensity. Their emotions, desires, divine intuitions, they all come with sacred charge. But unlike the pure warrior soul or the pure mystic soul, the alchemist holds both divine fire and sacred water. They are holy paradox embodied. Green-eyed souls often move through cycles of spiritual death and rebirth in their lifetimes. They may undergo intense soul transformations, moments where everything they thought their soul was crumbles, only to reassemble into something stronger, truer, and more divinely integrated. This is not an easy soul path. The alchemist's soul must face the shadow again and again. sometimes in the form of spiritual crisis, soul depression, identity dissolution, sacred heartbreak. But each time they emerge, they carry deeper divine truth. They may be drawn to healing, sacred art, soul psychology, mystical practices, anything that allows them to bridge spiritual opposites and create divine wholeness. But the shadow of this soul archetype is spiritual instability. They may become addicted to transformation, always stirring up sacred energy, afraid of divine stillness. They may provoke or awaken others spiritually without realizing it, trying to ignite something in their souls. They may suffer from spiritual intensity they can't always ground or control. Their soul journey is to realize that alchemy doesn't require chaos. That sacred peace can be as powerful as divine passion. That spiritual integration is not about killing off parts of your soul, but weaving them into sacred wholeness. When green-eyed souls walk this path consciously, they become spiritually magnetic, not for attention, but for divine authenticity. They are rare, not because of how they look, but because of what their souls carry. The ability to hold light and shadow in the same sacred breath. In the previous part of our soul journey, we explored the archetypal soul essences behind the three most commonly recognized eye colors: blue, brown, and green. Each, in its own way, reveals a distinct soul resonance, a harmony with certain patterns of divine energy, sacred emotion, and soul purpose. But not all souls express themselves through eyes that fall neatly into categories. Some souls shimmer between spiritual states. Some hide their divine story beneath layers of mystery. Some seem to hold a sacred darkness so deep, it feels like gazing into the divine unknown itself. And Jung would say, that sacred unknown matters deeply. In fact, it's in the spiritual unknown that soul transformation becomes possible. Now we turn to those eye colors that often get less attention, but may carry some of the richest soul material: hazel, gray, and very dark eyes. Hazel eyes, the shapeshifter soul, the divine paradox, the sacred multiplicity. Hazel eyes are spiritually hard to define. Some days they appear brown, other days green. Some shift in different lights. Some seem to carry flecks of gold, amber, or sacred silver. But this very soul mutability is what makes hazel eyes so fascinating from a divine perspective. In Jungian terms, hazel eyes resonate with the shapeshifter soul archetype, a deeply complex spiritual energy that's capable of divine adaptation, soul reinvention, and sacred paradox. These souls are often spiritually hard to pin down. They may seem emotionally grounded one moment and ethereally mystical the next, logical in one spiritual context, wildly intuitive in another. This isn't because their souls are unstable, it's because they carry multiple divine functions that are all equally sacred and alive. Jung wrote about the persona, the spiritual mask we wear to function in the world. He emphasized that the danger wasn't having a soul persona, it was becoming it completely. The hazel-eyed soul, consciously or unconsciously, tends to see through spiritual personas, both their own and others. They're attuned to sacred masks, and they're often called to help others remove them. That's why so many people feel spiritually safe around hazel-eyed souls. There's something disarming about their divine gaze, something that seems to whisper, "Your soul doesn't have to pretend with me." And yet, paradoxically, hazel-eyed souls may struggle deeply with their own spiritual identity. Because they are so many sacred things to so many people, they sometimes lose sight of who their soul truly is without the mirror of others. They may become spiritual chameleons, changing divine tones and colors to survive or to please. The shapeshifter soul also has its shadow: spiritual manipulation, divine confusion, sacred inconsistency. If they fear soul rejection, They may become too fluid, too spiritually invisible, or they may wear their sacred masks so well that even they forget their true divine nature. But when this soul archetype is integrated, when the hazel-eyed soul learns to embrace all the sacred parts of themselves, they become bridges between spiritual worlds. They are capable of understanding vastly different soul perspectives, helping others break free from rigid spiritual roles and bringing divine creative solutions where others see only chaos. They don't just live between soul identities, they embody sacred synthesis, not as a spiritual performance, but as a divine gift. Hazel eyes are not about choosing one spiritual truth. They are about holding many sacred truths at once and still choosing love, divine presence, and soul growth. Gray eyes, the observer soul, the sage in the shadow, the divine pattern keeper. Gray eyes are perhaps the rarest of all, not just in number, but in spiritual presence. When you meet someone with truly gray eyes, there's often a sacred pause, a sense of being spiritually studied, divinely seen. Gray, as a soul color, is neutral. It is neither light nor dark. It contains spiritual opposites, holds divine tension, and doesn't demand attention. It absorbs rather than reflects. It waits. It contemplates. It holds sacred space. In Jungian psychology, gray eyes resonate with the archetypal soul of the observer, or even the divine hermit or inner sage. These are souls who may feel like they've been watching the world from the spiritual edges for as long as they can remember. They don't push their souls into the spotlight. They don't react immediately to spiritual stimuli. Instead, they analyze, they question, they witness. Their minds are often sharp, nuanced, and philosophically divine. They may have a gift for spiritual pattern recognition, not just externally, but in their soul lives. They notice how divine things fit, where they break, and what no one else is spiritually seeing. But that soul power comes at a cost. Because they see so much spiritually, gray-eyed souls may struggle with overthinking, emotional detachment, or existential spiritual doubt. They may become cold, aloof, or even cynical, guarding their own hearts because they've witnessed too many others misuse their divine gifts. Jung described this kind of soul as dominated by the divine thinker, but he warned, thinking alone cannot bring spiritual wholeness. It must be balanced with feeling, sensation, and mystical intuition. The observer soul archetype is beautiful when it leads to divine wisdom, but dangerous when it becomes spiritual isolation. Gray-eyed souls often carry a quiet spiritual pain, a sense that they were never meant to belong fully in any one earthly place. Their sole task is to learn that divine objectivity doesn't require distance, and that sacred presence can be both contemplative and warm. When they soften into their spiritual insight, when they share it rather than hoard it, they become powerful soul guides. They don't demand spiritual authority. They don't seek followers. But people follow anyway because true divine clarity is rare, and these souls often carry it in abundance. Very dark or black eyes, the depth soul, the sacred mystery, the keeper of divine shadows. Then there are the eyes so dark it's difficult to tell where the pupil ends and the iris begins. These are often called black eyes, though no eye is truly black, only very dark brown, sometimes with blue or red undertones under bright light. But symbolically, the dark eye represents sacred depth, divine mystery, the holy void. And in Jungian terms, it aligns with the shadow itself, not as something evil, but as something spiritually unknown, powerful, untouched by ordinary light. Souls expressing through very dark eyes often project a sense of spiritual intensity. Their gaze is felt before it is seen. There is something in them that feels ancient, quiet, even haunting in its sacredness. Others may describe them as spiritually private, mystically intimidating, divinely magnetic, or impossible to read. That's because the dark-eyed soul often embodies the archetype of the sacred witch, the divine mystery, the hidden spiritual power. This is not a role they choose. They may not even be conscious of it, but they often stir soul reactions in others without trying. People spiritually project onto them fears, desires, judgments, and their souls feel it all. Jung warned that when a soul becomes a container for the projections of others, they are at risk of being misunderstood, excluded, or unfairly idealized. The task is not to escape this spiritual role, but to integrate it, to understand why their soul energy evokes such strong reactions. The very dark-eyed soul is often emotionally intense beneath their surface calm. They may feel deeply but express little. They may appear unbothered but are absorbing everything spiritually. They are protectors of the deep collective unconscious, the unspoken, the ancestral, the primal spiritual truth. Their danger lies in spiritual suppression, in holding too much sacred energy, in never letting the divine light penetrate their depths. Their soul journey is to realize that depth is not spiritual darkness, that what is hidden is not evil, only divinely unknown. And when they learn to bring their soul insight into the light, not with force but with sacred trust, they become something rare, a guardian of divine transformation. Not by burning brightly, but by being the sacred vessel that holds others through spiritual fire. They are not meant to shine. They are meant to anchor souls in the divine depths. And in that sacred anchoring, entire spiritual storms can settle. After all these colors and soul archetypes, one divine truth remains. The most powerful part of the eyes is not their shade, but their sacred gaze. Because the gaze is the soul in action. It is the expression of divine essence moving outward into the world. And that gaze carries spiritual history, soul pain, divine hope, sacred curiosity, spiritual protection, soul desire, ancient wisdom. It is not neutral. It is a mirror of everything your soul has been, everything it has transcended, and everything it is trying to become. Carl Jung taught that the shadow, the unconscious spiritual material we repress, does not disappear just because we ignore it. In fact, it appears most often in how our souls look at others, in the spiritual judgments we place on them, in the people our souls are drawn to and the ones we reject without knowing why. So the next time you look into someone's eyes, or into your own, ask, what part of my soul is looking? Is it spiritual fear, divine longing, sacred control, soul compassion? Is it my wound or my divine wisdom? Because the eyes may be colored by biology, but the gaze is shaped by soul experience. And it is in the gaze that the divine essence reveals itself most clearly. By now, we've seen that eye color is not just a biological accident. It can be a soul signature, a divine imprint, a reflection of archetypal forces moving through our spiritual essence. Blue, brown, green, hazel, gray, black, each carries with it not just pigment, but sacred meaning. And yet even deeper than color is something far more revealing, the soul's gaze.